individuals and groups who wanted to put out good information regarding the lead level crisis here in the city of Newark. And so they were actually more proactive about sharing the information or sharing the real information about the water crisis, than our beloved city. So just want to share and introduce to everyone, Brother Anthony Diaz.
Hello, Anthony.
Hi, everybody.
Greetings.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you, especially as a person who I grew up in the South Ward in Newark, and Weekway Park was my park. So I grew up on Weekway and Maple. So parks are definitely important to me. And definitely shout out to you, Mr. Witten, because as he mentioned, the referral program, but he definitely put in a lot of work and was one of our top referrals for our program. So my name is Anthony Diaz. I'm the co-founder and executive director of the NEWARK Water Coalition. I've been running this organization for about the last, we're going to have our 5-year anniversary this year in December. We started out as a community group, just, random folks, organizers across the city of Newark that wanted to talk about this water issue. Our first meeting was December 18th, 2018. And I'm thinking, I'm excited if 5 people show up, they want to talk about the water issue. I'm like, okay, we'll have something going on. The first meeting that we had over 30 people come to our meeting. And so then I realized, okay, this is like really important. I had been an organizer in the city of Newark since high school. I went to Science High. And, for me, I've always done police brutality, housing issues, really any social justice issues, except for environmental. I was never an environmental organizer, never thought much about it until the water crisis happened. And then, the more I learned about it, the more conspiratorial it sounded. There's plenty of information, there's plenty of data that'll show you how our city and our administration has, I don't want to get too much into that, but if you look, 2016, 30 Newark public schools tested positive for lead and exceedance. Bard High School was at 500 parts per billion. The federal standard is 15 parts per billion. So we already knew that we had an issue starting with the high schools, but back then what they said it's only localized to the high schools, it's not in the city water system. Then fast forward a couple of years.
I say all the same pipes, how could that be?
Well, fast forward a couple of years, Newark's water system as a whole was in violation for lead exceedance. And it's been in violation up till, I want to say 2021 or 2020. That's when they changed over the lead pipes. So about 25,000 lead pipes were changed in the city of Newark. It's held as this national model, which I do think it's a good program. It's very, everything that was changed, but it doesn't go far enough, because even if you're changing the lead service line, if you live in a home that's built pre-1978, you can still have lead fixturing in your home. And if you have lead fixturing in your home, this is going to affect your water quality. But one of the things I often tell when I give these presentations is like, this is not, I'm not Chicken Little. I'm not trying to tell everyone the sky is falling, everyone's poison. What I tell folks is test your home. Test your home. That's the biggest thing. So as Mr. Witt said, one of our offices is located at 311 Clinton Avenue between Stratford and Hillside Ave. Our other office is located on South Orange Avenue between 10th and 11th Street. So we own and operate 2 offices. And then on Saturdays, we distribute food and water out of St. Stephen's Church in the East Ward in the Ironbound section of Newark. So we first started doing a lot of water distributions. We were buying water from ShopRite. We were operating out of a church on 7th Avenue. And when the pandemic struck, ShopRite told us, hey, you can't buy water from us anymore. And it kind of really, I think that's such an important point for me, because we were doing no contact deliveries of water. I was shocked, and this is the ShopRite on Springfield Ave. So I was shocked to find that like this corporation can snap their fingers and tell me, we're not going to sell you water anymore. So being the, leader of the Water Coalition and not having water to give out was kind of really jarring. So we linked up with an organization called 501c3, which is Will Smith's son, Jaden Smith's nonprofit organization. They've done a lot of work in Flint. They own and operate about 15 of these large water filtration systems, or there's only 15 in the country. The Newark Water Coalition operates 4 of them. And so there are 4 systems of filtration, a 5 micron, 1 micron, a carbon filter, and a UV filter. We can connect this to any hose outlet and distribute as much clean water as we want. So folks, if they don't have a jug, we provide them with a jug. A lot of people bring their own 5-gallon containers. You can fill up water at any of our office locations when they're open. Absolutely free. We don't charge. We been designated a food pantry with the Men Network. One of the things that we saw during the pandemic is a lot of people suffering in silence. We were getting a lot of donations of food. And so, we were kicking it right back out to the community. And then what we saw was that there's a real requirement for food out here. And it's only gotten worse as SNAP benefits have been getting cut, as inflation and then groceries, your dollar doesn't stretch as much. So, we were giving out like a few cans, like a Ziploc bag of vegetables. And now we give out about 2,500 pounds of food a week. And so we're doing all of these things because my organizing philosophy is that you can't advocate for yourself if you're hungry. You can't advocate for yourself if you're housing insecure. You can't advocate for yourself if you're facing, trauma and grief and mental health issues. So I believe, and this is, how I guide the organization, is that we have to meet people's fundamental basic needs before they're even in a position to begin to fight these systemic oppression that we constantly face. And just to give you the numbers overall, we've given out over 200,000 pounds or 200,000 gallons of water. We've given out over 150,000 pounds of food. And this is something that I think is so valuable and important to our people. And, one of the things that is our work kind of leads us to other work. So in the beginning, we've had these testing kits. We wanted to create a street team to go to people's houses to test their water. But again, that's when the pandemic happened. And so we know people were, afraid, didn't want us in their homes and things like that. So we had to shelf that idea. And I linked up, we do, a lot of researchers and scientists and academics always reach out to us to learn about the history of the Newark water crisis, or just to, survey our people and do different things. I met a student named Bhavisha Kalyan from the University of California, Berkeley, and for their dissertation, they wanted to do a project on lead. So we partnered together to do this project because one of the things that I learned as I've learned more about lead is that, paint is actually what they consider the greater percentage of source poisoning than water. So, if we're looking at lead and we're telling, people to be concerned about their water, I can't ignore soil, paint, and dust when we're talking about lead issues. So we came up with this project called the Mobile Lead Testing Unit to go into people's homes and to test their lead sources in paint, water, dust, and soil. So in my mind, I know we were going to hit lead. Newark's an older city. We're going to do 300 homes. We're going to see what we find and what we come up with. And so interestingly enough, most people, 78% of Newarkers are renters, and a lot of people aren't homeowners, but we collected about 38 soil samples. And in those 38 soil samples, only 6 samples came back as being under the limit. And when I say that, or put that into additional context, so our highest lead reading in soil was almost 8,000 parts per million. Now, what that means is the EPA standard is 400. We say that there's no safe level of lead. CDC says there's no safe level of lead. So if we're at 8,000, the EPA standard is at 400. California standard is at 80. New York standard is at 60. If we're at 8,000, we have a problem in Newark. And so now what we've done is we've got additional funding to go back and specifically focus on soil. But again, I don't want to be one of these people that say, oh, look at all of these problems and not come up with a solution. So we've partnered with another university, Stevens Institute of Technology out of Hoboken, and there's a scientist there that did a pilot program in Bayonne that planted subtropical grass in this place and remediated the lead in soil by 80 to 90%. So now that we've already tested a lot of the 300 homes in the city of Newark, we can go back to these homes and offer them the solution of planting this grass to remediate their soil so that they can grow their own food, or they can grow their own flowers, or have their children play in the yard. And so, for us, it's always about, well, if we're going to find a problem, let's find a solution. If our water isn't clean, let's give out water. If we don't have food, let's give out food. But then it becomes an issue of like, this isn't sustainable. As an organization, you're spending all this money. We do get grant fundings, and we've been very blessed, and I'm very grateful for that. But what happens again if these grants shut off? I don't want to be in a ShopRite situation where we don't have food and water to give out to our people. So as a result of this, we partnered with the Lenni Lenape people, the Turtle Clan specifically. Chief man of the Turtle Clan has his own farm in Newton, New Jersey. So the Newark Water Coalition purchased a 100-foot greenhouse, and we are utilizing that, or hopefully it'll be finished being built this today. And we're utilizing that to grow our own food to give back to our community. We're also doing aeroponics, so that because we want to show people like, hey, you can be self-sustainable within your own home if you just have these little things. And so as a whole, what one of our goals is, or actually, well, I'll say it's my personal goal as leader of the Water Coalition. If a new leader comes in, they can decide what their goals are. But my goal is liberation. And what I mean by that is I mean liberation on 3 levels. I mean personal liberation for myself, for the people within my organization. Then I mean liberation for the internal community, which is just like our allies and folks that are involved in the Newark Water Coalition. And then the 3rd level is communal liberation. I think, and I thought the reflection at the beginning of the meeting was very important, because I too didn't know that about Juneteenth, about how, multiple cultures can celebrate it and things like that. But it's become one of those things where, for me in doing this work, I kind of have looked at the systems overall and how the systems keep us in this kind of rat race and doesn't allow us to kind of thrive. Like, we're always caught in survival mode, and we're not really thriving, we're not really living. But then, when we break it down, it's like, well, some of our people aren't eating, some of our people don't even have housing, some of our people don't even confront their mental issues to begin able to heal. So of course we're stuck in this rat race. Of course we're not thriving. And so, doing all the work that we're doing is we're not operating like a traditional nonprofit would. We're not operating in this scope or framework or the context of like, this is how the work is done. We're doing it using our imagination, creativity. I want people to dream the biggest dreams. And when you look at a city like Newark, and, I am one of those people, again, I don't know why I have this sick, crazy love with this city. The city has made me, everything I am as a man and a human being is because of the city of Newark. And so I too was one of those kids and families that was on the line looking for food, getting the toys at Christmas from organizations. So now that I'm older, as an adult, being able to give back to my community is so important, but doing in a way that has a lot of authenticity and a lot of integrity is super important to me, because we need to show people and not just tell them, like show them the hope that we can be, instead of constantly telling folks, this is what you need to be doing. So whereas, other community organizations haven't really pushed the envelope as far as we have, I'm going to ride this thing until the wheels fall off, because we don't have the sense of time. As I believe it was the woman who was on the call who had to step away, but you're seeing more climate issues. It is here. And the thing I tell folks all about it is, it's like, we're not going to get these monsoons that come in, and not, at least not yet. But what climate is affecting is how we're growing food as a country. And so when you look historically, the areas that are hit the hardest and first are urban areas. So food scarcity is only going to drive up as we're going to see like a lot of these weather events happen, and our people aren't prepared for them. Our people don't understand sustainability on a communal level, because we're all stuck in this scarcity mindset, and we're constantly trying to fight. We're constantly trying to just get by. And I understand that. But a quote that I've heard, several years ago that I still use today is remembering who the real enemy is. And it's not us, it's not each other. We're all on the same side. To a degree, representation does matter, but it's like, how are we collectively moving on? How are we collectively moving the needle? Because if we're not, we're going to suffer. And Newark has been a city with history of suffering, and it's time to really have hope. And so while, I don't believe that Superman is here to save us, I don't believe that I'm Superman, I don't believe our organization is Superman, I believe that we are put in a position where we can utilize our resources to facilitate the space for others to find the liberation that they want through their passions. And to me, over the last 5 years, everything has really changed with the Newark Water Coalition to that point. So, a lot of people don't understand our programming. A lot of people don't understand what we do. But I always tell folks, come to a distribution to really get to know us. Come to our distribution to really see the heart and soul of Newark and the community that we're building here, because it's so important. And then finally, I always like to talk about mental health issues and how, it's not easy doing this work. And as you can see, y'all have been doing this for a while, is that you want to have thousands of people help out. You want the quantity, but I will always take a strong 10 over a weak 100 any day. And it's not easy and it's not hard, but our people need hope more now than ever. They need to connect to the land more now than ever. And I mean that in a variety of ways. I mean that from growing your own food, from hugging a tree to playing in a park, that it's so important for our people to have this connection, because we need to understand, when you develop this relationship with nature, you begin to see the world outside of yourself. And when you see the world outside of yourself, then you're able to think about your neighbor, you're able to think about the next person. And that's why I think communion with, nature is so big. And then for like the mental health aspect is almost tied with the spiritual aspect, is when people say water is life, that takes a new meaning for me, because, I have traveled internationally to represent Newark at the United Nations. I've been on tribal territories. I've been in rural, white communities. And I understand that environmental justice issues don't end at our borders. Environmental justice issues are spiritual issues. This is, no matter what your faith is, like, nature is what it is here. And I think that is also lost with this age of technology. So I'll wrap it up there, and I really appreciate y'all folks giving me the platform and allowing me to talk, because I understand too is that, in the city of Newark, there's just a lot of issues. And so, I'm always grateful for those who are willing to hear about our work. So thank you.
Wow,
Thank
wow,
you.
wow.
I know, right? Wow.
Knew a little bit, but didn't know all of that, like the depth of it. I'm like overwhelmed with joy, really. Bubbles is on the top of my head. I know that you partner with a lot of people in Newark and have been doing it for a very long time. But I'm seeing something I can't really but we're on the same page. These organizations, I mean, everybody that's here is on the same page. And so I'm looking forward to the manifestation of this synergy that I'm seeing and hearing. With all the folks that's on the screen and beyond, because it's all connected. So I'm just got more excited than what I expected. So thank you so much for sharing what you do and sharing that passion with us, because it fell off on me and it helped fill my well. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much, Anthony. You really saved the best for last when you started talking about the mental piece and the connection to nature, right? Because I think that when people have that connection, that it makes for a more expansive relationship with everything else that's around them. They get to see things differently. And it's simple, right? A lot of the issues that we have in our community it's not new. I think our approach to dealing with them needs to change. And a lot of what you talked about is that change, because people are so used to functioning in this difficult, challenging way, because that's what we've come to know. But a lot of our healing and a lot of what we need rests in simplicity. And water is king. I mean, water is the best stuff on earth to me, right? And that comes from nature. And knowing that and understanding that will lend itself to a more open mind to have other healing modalities come in. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Yes. Water is not only an absolute necessity. Our bodies are more than 70% water. The planet is more than 70% water. You can live longer without food than you can without water. And I think it was Dr. Emoto, a Japanese scientist, who also looked at the, I guess, for lack of a better term, the spiritual aspects of water. So water carries energy within it. And he did these experiments where he put water in different jars with different labels on them: love and hate and generosity and gratitude, et cetera, et cetera. He also did stuff with rice, where he put rice with water with the different labels on it, or he spoke to it. One he spoke with love, one he spoke with hatred, one he spoke with, one he didn't speak to at all. And the rice evolved differently based on how the water was empowered. And so given that the planet is 70% plus water and our bodies are 70 plus water, when we speak to our children and our fellow man and our neighbors and our employees or our bosses with negativity, that infiltrates the water in their body and it permeates, it makes a difference. And so, I tend to bless my water even before I drink it, because I want to infuse that energy into it as I'm putting it into my body. And when you recognize how pivotal water is and how much we are a part of it and it is a part of us, you want to treat it differently. So it goes beyond what lead or other chemicals are in it. It also has to do with the energy that we infuse in the water that we ingest and that we even that falls from the sky. We have an impact on all of that. So thank you so much, Anthony, for bringing that to our attention. I put something in the chat that I'm so connected to this community. Even when you talked about Native Americans, I'm Cherokee, so I absolutely understand, exactly where you're coming from, and I have that perspective about the planet and how we should treat it.
Thank you, Anthony. I had two things I wanted to ask you about, and I know you don't want to spend a lot of time talking about yourself, but I was intrigued by you describing yourself as a community organizer when you were in high school. So I'd like to hear more about how you came to that sense of awareness or consciousness about yourself and what kinds of things you were doing at that age. And then the second is about liberation and how you I guess examples of how you work toward that on the different layers that you talked about, and what are some of the what's some of the progress that you've seen? Because the situation that we're in sometimes seems so daunting. And we know that, we kind of want to work towards freedom and liberation, but sometimes that seems like a dream when we look at the today and where we are. So I'm curious to hear how you have tried to address that and what some of the progress is that you've been able to make with NEWARK Water Coalition.
So for the first question, I think, and this is I get this question a lot, but I think this is the first time that I'm going to answer in this way, because I don't know, it just hit me. I grew up a very sensitive kid, very sensitive to everything around me. And so being that sensitive kid, understanding like right and wrong and justice, these concepts really were like deep in me. And so, I had, I had political education when I was in high school. I had friends who were very politically active. I had teachers who were very politically active, but none of that spoke to like, when I saw an injustice, I don't know why I would always speak up. I don't know why something in me always says, this isn't right. If no one's going to say anything about this, I'm going to say something about this. I have no reason. I don't know why. And then, as you get older, it's I've had a lot of vices in my life. I had a lot of things, of moments in my life where I wasn't a good person, and I feel like I was very extractive from this world. And now being in a position where I'm giving to the world, it feels very different. It feels like this is what I was called to do. This is what I was meant to do. And even when yet last night I was super frustrated, super mad, super tired, but I understand fundamentally, like, this is my calling because it feels so right. And I wish I could say like I have a burning bush moment. Maybe I have like several burning bush moments in my life. But I can't, like, I don't have one to like point to. And then for the work of liberation, it's literally the stories. It's kind of how a lot of people like to hear the numbers. Oh, we help 25,000 people a year and da 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 da. But honestly, it's the stories of the community members that kind of like keep me grounded and keep me focused and all these things. I had a woman that came into our Clinton office and she cried and she said, before y'all came here, she's like, I was in survival mode and now I'm living because I know no matter what, I can come here and get a meal. I can come here and get water. So I don't have to worry anymore about that. I had another community member, since y'all been here, I've gained weight, and it's one of these things where you hear that and you're like, whatever. But then you start to understand like what it is to go hungry, what it is to not have, what it is to not have your needs met. And so by, giving someone a meal, by giving somebody substance, it's liberating them from that hunger, from that unmet need. Personally speaking, I had to I guess this is one of my burning bush moments where, I was working at a charter school in the Bronx and I was doing the NEWARK Water Coalition as just like, okay, this is my after school work. And then I was like, why am I doing this? This is where I feel happy. This is where I know I feel needed. And I quit my job. I had no money. I moved into my aunt's basement. I just knew that this is what I had to do. And I've experienced a freedom that is unfathomable. And it's a freedom that I want others to have. I'm not punching a clock for anyone. I took a month off earlier this year just because I was burnt out and I needed it. What other job is going to allow you to have a month off just because you need it? And so I think about when I talk about liberation, I mean it in very tangible ways. I don't mean like we're going to have I wouldn't mind an uprising and where like the whole system is shaken on its head. But I mean, there's things that like having your own time be yours, that's liberation. Instead of like, oh, I got to get up at this time because I got to be able to work at this time because I got to punch out at this time, but I'm obligated to do that. And you're not, with the 40 hours or 40 plus hours that you're working on with on somebody else's job or company or making the money is 40 hours you're not working on yourself. It's 40 hours you're not developing your calling. It's 40 hours you're not developing what or meeting the needs that you have in your life. So, you know, what I've seen is like, we got to feed people first because they literally don't have food. And so when we feed them, you know, think about when you're hungry, how your emotions respond. So literally just by feeding people and giving them water, we're changing their emotional state so that they're able to respond differently. One of the things that we've done outside of our Clinton Ave office is we have these powders, and I put tomato plants in one and pepper plants in other. And I love how like we have these hood guys come around and they're like, the peppers are growing, the peppers are growing. And he's like, I feel like I'm a farmer now. And it's like, you are a farmer, you're watering, you're taking care of this. And now, you know, it's liberating their notion of what food looks like. It's liberating, causing this notion of like what the life cycle is. And so, you know, it's these, I had to reframe what success and liberation looks like in order to take joy in these moments. Because if I'm sitting here and I'm like, there's 320,000 people in Newark, and I got to liberate every single one of them, I'm gonna go insane. I'm gonna go insane. But this ripple effect of me liberating one person and then everyone in their network seeing a change, and then they're wondering why they have that change. And so then it becomes this ripple effect of person after person fundamentally changing their way of living, fundamentally changing their world, and allowing for different options to be planted and birthed. So it's, you know, it's bit by bit, piece by piece. It's a slow burn. It is super exhausting. It is super frustrating at times, but the rewards of seeing a changed life is like, you know, it's the one thing that even if I'm crying myself to bed, I can take like solace in that. And then the last one is like we have like about 6 or 7 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds in the organization, a few like 14-year-olds in the organization. And as much as these kids get on my nerves, like seeing their lives change is beautiful. I had one kid, they got a full scholarship to NJIT to be an environmental engineer as a result of the work that we did on our lead project. So here I'm thinking like, you know, thinking about our adults, but now this kid's life is completely changed. Like the opportunities they're going to be afforded, the networks they're going to meet. So like the liberation comes in these different forms and these different waves. And it really is, it's on us to see it, to seek it out, to develop it, to facilitate it, to water it, and watch it grow.
Thank you. That's helpful. It's not just, I mean, that's not even a good word to describe it. Thank you. And thank you for that kind of introspection that you shared with us.
I'm hugging you right now. I'm giving you a virtual hug. I love you so much and where you're coming from. We are kindred spirits, no doubt, no doubt. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you for you and the ripple effect that you're having in the communities that we serve and the people of color. Yeah, absolutely.
And I will reach out to you, Anthony, because the city has an open space trust fund where at this point, I think it's 3 cents per $100 of property taxes devoted to park development and maintenance and things related to open space, although not programming. And that legislation created an advisory board, and we're looking for 2 young people who might be interested in serving on that. So I'll reach out to you to see if you can share that information, and if any of your young people might be interested in doing that. It's just now getting activated or reactivated, depending on how you look at it. So I'll send you that information, and I would appreciate it if you could share it with folks who have an interest in what you're doing and also some interest in open space and parks.
Definitely.
Do you
And,
need more growing space as well? I would be absolutely happy to devote my entire backyard to growing food sources and or herbal, medicinal types of plants and stuff like that. So right now it's just like a little jungle back there. I got all kinds of wild stuff growing, echinacea, plantains, and all kinds of things, but I'm not doing anything with it. So if you're looking for some growing space, I would absolutely want to talk to you about that.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna turn down free space. I'm putting in our contact information as well in the chat. And I will put
And-
my direct email.
and Brother Diaz, wanna definitely thank you and the NEWARK Water Coalition for participating in our annual National Night Out events in our city parks, and wanna first extend an ask for you guys to participate again in 2023 on the first Tuesday in the month of August.
The first Tuesday month of August. I know I won't be here, but I will make sure my team is on it.
Okay,
Water National Night Out. You said it's August 2nd, when it's a Wednesday?
it's a Tuesday, the first Tuesday of August.
First Tuesday, I'm sorry, the first, okay. You got it. All right, well, I don't know if there's any other questions or not, but I will take off if there's nothing else. All right, enjoy the rest of your meeting. I look forward to connecting again.
Thank
Bye.
you,
Thank you,
Anthony.
Anthony.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.